The first 3 hours of the flight had been calm. Then a sudden turbulence and a strange announcement followed. "We need your attention. The plane is now under our control." Ibrahim Traoré had concealed his identity while returning from Paris to Burkina Faso. Now, on the hijacked plane, he was being held hostage along with 182 innocent passengers. The hijackers were negotiating from the cockpit with the negotiator. $10 million in the release of 3 prisoners from La Santé prison. "This is our only condition." But if they had known that Ibrahim Traoré was sitting in seat 178, their demands would have been very different. Air France flight AF726 from Paris to Ouagadougou had begun as a calm afternoon journey. The plane was filled with mostly French tourists, business people, and Burkinabe returning home. In seat 178 by the window sat a man in simple clothes, a dark shirt, blue jeans, and sporty shoes. He wore a baseball cap and sunglasses. No one knew he was Ibrahim Traoré, the transitional leader of Burkina Faso. After his secret diplomatic meetings in Paris, he had decided to return to his country without drawing too much attention. He thought official flights required protocol, were announced in advance, and posed a risk. The plane had entered Malian airspace when the flight attendant, while serving hot drinks, suddenly noticed 4 passengers standing up. At first, she thought it was an argument, but then she saw the gleaming metal object, a gun. In an instant, the frightened flight attendant dropped her tray, hot tea spilling everywhere. "Nobody move!" shouted one of the men, speaking in Arabic with a French accent. "We've taken control of the plane. Follow instructions and no one will get hurt." Ibrahim Traoré watched the situation calmly. From his security training and military background, he knew that the first moments in such situations were the most critical. Guns were drawn, panic spread, and violence might be used to gain control. 2 of the hijackers quickly moved to the cockpit. The other 2 positioned themselves at the front and back of economy class, keeping the passengers under control. People were silently crying, some praying, others clinging to their phones. "We will collect your phones, tablets, electronic devices," announced the man at the back. "Don't resist, or the consequences will be severe." Traoré quickly slipped his phone into the side pocket of the seat. The hijackers had not yet systematically collected electronic devices. They were trying to establish chaotic control. The hijacker who had returned from the cockpit stood in front of the passengers. "Now listen to me. This plane is under our control. Our demands are simple. $10 million and the release of 3 prisoners from La Santé prison in France. If our demands are met, you will all be able to return to your homes." Traoré studied the man's eyes. He was tense, anxious but determined. He wasn't a professional terrorist, but rather someone with ideological motivation. Hours began to pass. The plane, deviating from its normal route, was circling over Mali. The pilot, under the hijackers' instructions, was staying airborne to gain time for negotiation. Ibrahim Traoré was observing the passengers around him. Next to him sat an elderly Burkinabe woman who was trembling. A few rows ahead, a mother was trying to calm her 2 small children. Across the aisle, 3 French businessmen were whispering anxiously. "Don't worry," said Traoré quietly to the elderly woman beside him. "You're Burkinabe, aren't you, my son?" asked the woman with tears in her eyes. "Yes, mother." "We will all return home," said Traoré confidently. A hijacker came out of the cockpit and began talking to another. Traoré could see their tension, even from a short distance. Something was going wrong. With a sudden decision, one of the hijackers grabbed a passenger, a middle-aged French man, and began dragging him toward the cockpit. "The negotiations are not being taken seriously," he shouted. "Maybe if we send a hostage, they will listen more carefully." It was at that moment that Ibrahim Traoré had to make a decision. He could reveal his identity and offer himself as the most valuable hostage. This could save the other passengers, but might plunge his country into a major diplomatic crisis. Or he could remain silent and wait for the situation to develop. Traoré decided to stand up, but before revealing his identity, he chose to make one last move. "Stop!" he called out in a strong but calm tone. "You know that negotiations take time. Sudden decisions can lead to bad outcomes for everyone." The hijacker looked at Traoré with surprise and pointed his gun at him. "Who are you to tell me what to do?" "I'm just a passenger," said Traoré calmly, "but I know how negotiations work. Resorting to violence makes it harder for you to get what you want. The hijacker paused for a moment, then approached. "Why are you so confident? Who are you?" "I work as a diplomat," said Traoré without lying. "I know how agreements are made. If you want, I can help with the negotiation." The hijacker thought for a while, then looked at the other three men. A quick conversation passed between them in mixed Arabic and French. Finally, their apparent leader nodded. "Okay, diplomat," he said in a mocking tone. "Show us your skill. Come to the cockpit." Traoré rose calmly. He didn't take his eyes off the hijackers. Slowly, he moved toward the cockpit. Passengers watched anxiously. The elderly woman he passed whispered, "God protect you, my son." When he entered the cockpit, the pilot and co-pilot were at the controls, looking tired and tense. One of the hijackers was controlling the radio communication. "Who is this?" asked the man on the radio when he saw Traoré. "A diplomat," said the leader hijacker. "He's going to help with the negotiation." The person on the radio, apparently a French negotiator, sounded suspicious. "Is this a trap? Have you brought a hostage?" "No," said Traoré in a calm voice. "I'm just a passenger, and I want this situation to be resolved peacefully. I want everyone to return home safely." Ibrahim Traoré was thinking about his next move. He needed to get to know the hijackers to understand their motivations. "First, everyone needs to stay calm," he said to the negotiator and the hijacker. "What is the goal?" "The release of 3 prisoners and money, correct?" "Yes," said the leader. "Our brothers are being held in La Santé. We want them back." "Who are these brothers of yours?" asked Traoré carefully. "Malik Azim, Riyad Hamoudi, and Omar Banani," said the leader. "They are not terrorists. They are freedom fighters. They were accused of helping the Traoré uprising in Mali." Traoré immediately recognized these names. The 3 men had been accused of attacking French military facilities, but they had also become symbolic figures protesting French neo-colonial activities in West Africa. "I understand," said Traoré. "And what is the purpose of the money?" "For more struggle," said the leader, "until France's presence in Africa ends." Traoré had understood the ideological motivation of these men. Anti-colonial sentiments were strong across Africa, especially in West Africa. He himself had similar thoughts, but certainly not through violence. "May I know your names?" asked Traoré. "I am Yusuf," said the leader. "These are my brothers Hakim, Jamal, and Ahmed." "Yusuf," said Traoré, "I can help with the negotiation, but what is your plan?" Hostage processes are usually long and complex. Governments, especially France, want to avoid appearing to give in to terrorism. "We are not terrorists," Yusuf responded angrily. "We just want justice. We are fighting against the colonialists who suck Africa's blood." Traoré nodded. "I understand you. Have you thought of another way? Maybe a political statement? An application to an international court?" "We tried those ways," said Yusuf with a bitter voice. "Nobody listened. My brothers have been in prison for 7 years. We couldn't wait anymore." Traoré was forming his strategy. These men were not professional terrorists. They were ideologically motivated people who felt desperate. Maybe he could convince them. "Well, what is your plan? Even if your demands are met, how will you escape? Have you thought about that?" Yusuf and the others looked at each other. Their plan wasn't fully developed. "We plan to land in Mali and cross the border from there," said Yusuf in a voice not entirely confident. "They will catch you immediately," said Traoré. "There will be special forces where the plane lands." Traoré could see the uncertainty in Yusuf's eyes. "But maybe there is another way," he continued. "I can help as a mediator. Perhaps we can bring the situation of the prisoners to an international platform without resorting to violence." "It's too late," said Yusuf. "We have already taken this path. There's no turning back." "There is always a way back," said Traoré, lowering his voice. "But first, the passengers need to be safe." At that moment, a voice came from the cockpit radio. The French negotiator wanted to talk. "Yusuf, we are evaluating your demands, but we need more time to build trust. Perhaps you could release some hostages, children, the elderly." Yusuf thought for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, we can release the children and the elderly. But first, I want fuel. The plane will need fuel for landing." "Let's get the fuel in Mali," said the negotiator. "Head to Bamako Airport. There you can release the children and the elderly." Yusuf agreed. Traoré could see the man's inexperience. Landing in Bamako meant losing control. There would be special forces there, and when the plane was on the ground, an operation would be inevitable. The plane changed its course toward Bamako. Ibrahim Traoré, still in the cockpit, watched Youssef and his friends. They frequently talked to each other, their tension increasing. "Are you sure about this?" asked Traoré calmly. "When you land in Bamako, you will lose control." "What do you mean?" asked Youssef suspiciously. "When you land for fuel, special forces will be ready. They will conduct an operation. This will be the end for you and your friends." Fear appeared in Youssef's eyes. "Then what do you suggest?" Traoré knew this moment was critical. He needed to make the right moves. First step, change of route. Head to Niger, not Mali. There, French influence is less. Second, regarding the hostages, you said you would release children and the elderly. Let's do that, but stay in the air. Third, define some realistic demands. Better conditions for the prisoners, a fair trial, international observers. Youssef thought for a moment. "Why should I trust you?" "Maybe you're a French agent." Traoré smiled. "I am African, just like you. And believe me, I share your thoughts about France's role in Africa. I just have different methods." Traoré's logical suggestions seemed to impress Youssef. The man left the cockpit to talk to his friends. Ibrahim was now alone with only the pilot and co-pilot. "Who are you really?" whispered the pilot. "A Frenchman." "Just a passenger trying to help," said Traoré. "No, you're different," said the pilot. "You talk like someone with military training." Traoré didn't answer. He just smiled. A few minutes later, Youssef and the others returned to the cockpit. "We accept your plan," said Youssef. "We will head to Niger. We will stay in the air, and we will release the children." "How?" asked Traoré. "What do you mean, how?" Youssef responded. "How will you release the children in the air?" explained Traoré. "Will you throw them out with parachutes?" The expression on Youssef's face showed that he hadn't thought of this detail. "Maybe we can build trust in another way," said Traoré. "For example, you can shoot a video showing that the children and the elderly on the plane are in good condition and send it." Youssef found this suggestion logical and accepted. Ibrahim Traoré was slowly gaining Youssef's trust. It was clear that the man hadn't thought of many details when planning this action. "We are heading to Niger instead of Mali," said Youssef to the negotiator on the radio, "and we will send a video showing that the children are well." The negotiator seemed surprised by this sudden change. "I understand, but all the preparations were made in Mali." "Plans have changed," said Youssef sharply. "We will get fuel in Niger. We will stay in the air until our demands are met." Traoré stood beside Youssef and spoke in a low voice. "Now you should comfort the passengers. You don't want to create panic. Maybe you can distribute water and food, a show of goodwill." Youssef thought and agreed. Returning to the cabin, he ordered 2 men to distribute water and snacks. At the same time, he asked them to bring the children to the front to shoot a video showing that they were in good condition. When Traoré returned to the cabin, he saw the fear-filled eyes of the passengers. The elderly woman beside him looked at him anxiously. "What's happening, my son?" she asked. "Negotiations are continuing," said Traoré in a calm voice. "Don't be afraid. We are moving in a good direction. The children will come to the front. A video will be shot showing that they are well." The children and their mothers were brought to the front section of the plane. There were 6 children, the youngest 3, the oldest 11 years old. They all looked scared. Their mothers were trying to calm them. Traoré stepped forward and approached the children. Kneeling down to their eye level, he said in a soft voice, "Hello, my name is Ibrahim. What are your names?" The children hesitantly told their names. Traoré listened to each one and smiled. "You might be a little scared, but everything will be all right," he said. "Now shall we play a game? We will shoot a video and show that you are well. This way you will be able to return to your home soon." The children seemed affected by Traoré's calm and trustworthy manner. They gradually relaxed. Traoré turned to Youssef. "It's important to comfort them," he said. "Scared children, panicked mothers, this makes the situation even more difficult." Youssef nodded. "Have you experienced this before?" he asked curiously. "I received crisis management training," said Traoré, telling the truth but not revealing his full identity. The video was shot. The children, under Traoré's guidance, waved to the camera and said they were fine. The video was sent to the negotiators. Hours were passing. The plane was drawing circles in Niger's airspace. Fuel was slowly decreasing. Ibrahim Traoré returned to Yusuf's side. What now? Fuel is limited. A time for decision is approaching. Yusuf looked worried. What will I do if they don't meet my demands? Think, said Traoré. What do you want to gain? The release of your brothers? That's not realistic immediately, but maybe improving their conditions. A fair trial, international observers. These might be possible. Yusuf thought about these words. Maybe you're right, but if I back down now, everything will be in vain. No, said Traoré. You're not backing down. You're changing strategy. You're acting smarter. Just then, the voice of the French negotiator came from the radio. Yusuf, an update. It has been agreed to form a commission to examine the prisoner's situation. Also, steps will be taken to ensure they are held in better conditions. But their release is not possible at the moment. Yusuf looked at Traoré. What should I do? This is a start, said Traoré. Now you should negotiate the conditions for a safe landing and the release of the hostages. What about us? Asked Yusuf, fear in his voice. What will happen to us? Traoré had realized that this man had not fully thought about the consequences of the action he had started. They were not professional terrorists, but ideologically motivated young men. If you resolve the situation peacefully now, this will be in your favor in court, said Traoré. You didn't use violence. You didn't harm anyone. This is important. Yusuf and his friends talked among themselves. Finally, Yusuf nodded. Okay, he said to the radio. You promised to establish a commission and improve conditions. Now let's discuss a safe landing in our situation. The negotiator seemed relieved. Of course. You can land at Niamey Airport. There, everyone's safety will be ensured. Traoré intervened. Wait a minute. When you land in Niamey, special forces will be waiting for you. You shouldn't take this risk. Then what do you suggest? Asked Yusuf. Instead of Bamako, land in Ouagadougou, said Traoré. In Burkina Faso, you can continue negotiations. It would be more neutral ground. Yusuf looked suspicious. Why Burkina Faso? Isn't it under France's influence? Traoré smiled. No, not anymore. Burkina Faso is currently following an independent policy. France's influence has diminished. As they approached Ouagadougou, Traoré prepared for the final phase. Yusuf, he said, when we land, you'll be surrounded by forces. But if you surrender peacefully, you won't be harmed. They'll imprison us, said Yusuf. Yes, but you'll live, and you'll have a chance to improve your brother's situation. Yusuf finally nodded. Let's land and release the hostages. The plane touched down at Ouagadougou Airport. Special forces were visible but not approaching. First, the children and elderly were allowed to disembark. Now I want to leave too, said Traoré to Yusuf. Why? How can you help us? It was time. Traoré removed his sunglasses and cap. Because I am Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso. Yusuf's face transformed from shock to horror. Impossible. It's true, said Traoré calmly. And now I want to help you. If you surrender peacefully, I guarantee your safety. You'll receive a fair trial in Burkina Faso. Yusuf's hand moved toward his gun. Maybe we should keep you as a hostage, the most valuable hostage. You could, said Traoré fearlessly, but think about what would happen next. Outside Burkina Faso, special forces are waiting. Harming a head of state would not end well for you. After a long moment, Yusuf slowly put down his gun. What do you want us to do? Drop your weapons, release the hostages, and exit the plane peacefully with me. I promise you won't be harmed. Yusuf and his friends reluctantly agreed. The passengers were informed they could safely disembark. Ibrahim Traoré led the way, with Yusuf and his companions following. When he emerged from the plane, the special forces were shocked to see their president. Sir, you were on the plane? Exclaimed an officer. Yes, said Traoré calmly, and I've guaranteed these men's safety. They're surrendering peacefully. Hours later, Traoré held a press conference at the presidential palace. Today, he said, we saw the difference between terrorism and diplomacy. These young men tried to defend a just cause with wrong methods, but in the end, dialogue and understanding prevailed. When asked why he hadn't revealed his identity, Traoré replied, revealing my identity could have complicated the situation. My goal was to prevent loss of life, and we succeeded. A journalist asked what the experience had taught him. "Violence is never the solution," answered Traoré. "Dialogue, understanding, and empathy are our strongest weapons, and a leader should live among his people as one of them. Because true power lies not within palace walls, but in the hearts of the people." As the press conference ended, the world was discussing Ibrahim Traoré's courage and wisdom. A crisis had been transformed into a lesson in leadership, and once again, Burkina Faso was shown as a symbol of Africa's honor and independence.